Thank you for joining us today. Now we're going to look at our LXM lock, what comes in the box, and how to put it on a door using our demo mount here. This is an M002 ESKB. That means it's electronic override. The S is our SN lever. KB meaning it's a black housing, black fascia. The PET-KB, that means it's got privacy. It's got toggle capable, and again, our black housing. Then the 11F, that means it is a mortise lock that is a 1 1/4 inch faceplate. It's got auto deadbolt on it, and it's dual-handed, which means we actually shipped a right-handed mortise here, but it's got both strike plates for your door. Don't recommend ordering the dual-handed for your jobs really. Maybe order it for attic stock, but not for your regular locks there. So let's look what's in the box. We do have our dust box here with a right-hand and left-hand strike plate on it. These are handed strikes. So I'm gonna set that to the side because I'm not using it. We've got our gasket here. Need that if you're putting this on next to your door, just make sure the lock's properly sealed. I'm not using it on my demo mount, but know that it's there. We do have our mortise housing. This is a full 1 inch no-cut deadbolt on here. We've got our auto deadbolt, so when I close the door and push this in, the deadbolt will throw out. So that is our mortise housing. We have the back housing for the lock. We have the exterior card reader for the lock. You see these in that nice black I was talking about. We've got our exterior SN lever. One thing I didn't mention is this one actually has a Vaughn lever on the inside. We can do different levers for the inside and outside, just like we can do different finishes on this lock. That's standard, just whatever part number you order. We have our screw pack. We have the mortise mounting screws. You've got threaded for wood and the separate machine thread for a metal frame. And we've got our privacy stickers here. So let's look at how this goes on the door. I'm gonna take my mortise housing first, and I'm gonna take these 2 faceplate screws out. They're real short, Phillips head screws. I'm gonna take those out and pull this faceplate off, which you noticed earlier I accidentally pressed that auto deadbolt and threw out the deadbolt. If that happens to you, easiest way to fix it is just take the spindle, put in here, take some pliers or something, turn it to retract that deadbolt. Deadbolt's got to be in to be able to pull this faceplate off. So I'm gonna move these things a little bit out of my way here, make some room for this mount. I've got a right-handed door. I've got a right-handed mortise that I'm gonna put in it. I'm gonna pull these 2 large mounting screws out. I don't need the machine screws because this is a wood frame, not metal. I'm gonna run those in. I'm not gonna overdrive them or anything. I'm gonna take my faceplate, put back on the door, and I'm gonna put my screws on it. Now, you don't have the luxury in the field of being able to lay your door down like I do, but that's okay. You can put these in with the door standing up. It's really easy. And I'm gonna try to line these screws up just for looks, where the Phillips heads look the same. So on the outside of my door here, I've got to put my lock in. But before I do that, I've got to set the handing of it. Like I said, this is a right-handed door. So I'm gonna take and set this to point towards the R for right hand. I'm gonna take my spindle and lock into it, and I'm gonna lock it in as a diamond. I'm not gonna put it in as a square. It won't go through the door that way, and that's wrong anyway, so let's put it as a diamond. And I'm gonna pull out the privacy spindle out of this plastic package also. And the privacy is right here where my thumb is. If you look in it, there's a little slot there that needs to be pointing sideways. And it's pretty close, but it's off a little bit here, so I'm just gonna take a flathead screwdriver, kind of stick through there and line it up sideways. And then we'll take this spindle, pop it in place. It's got to snap in and hold in. Both spindles need to be held in there, and they are. Now I can put my wire through the door, take and put those spindles through the door. You can't lay your door down like I'm doing, but you'll be able to put this on in the field. I'm gonna take the cover off of the inside housing, set it to the side. Now I've got to set my handing on this housing. Right now my privacy is actually set properly. I see the R there, so I know it's set for right hand. If I need it for left hand, I take this screw out, flip this plate over, put the screw back in, that sets it for left hand. Now for the handle itself, this one, it's got a little notch here that I need to point towards R or L to set my handing. So I'm gonna take a pair of needle nose pliers and put in here. Make sure this little tab's pulled down out of the way. And I'm gonna turn this till it points towards the R. That is a right-handed door. Now I'm gonna push that little tab back up, and in my screw pack there's a little piece of, I believe it's nylon, that we use to kind of lock that in place. It's got a snap in there, and that is also part of your fire protection, so that's got to be in there. Now I'm gonna put my handle in. I've got a little spacer piece I put in here, kind of covers up the gap, and I take my handle, it goes in up and down like that, and then I turn it to the correct handing to lock this in place, which I goofed here and actually locked this in before I did that. That's my bad. We all learn. This piece I pull out. I'm gonna pull that tab down so I can actually turn in place. Once I put this in, it locks that handle, so make sure you do those in the right order. Handle goes in, then the nylon piece goes in. There we go. So it's in there. I'm gonna take the spring that's in my bag and I'm gonna put it inside the handle here. I'm gonna take this whole assembly, stick my wires through it and put it on the door, make sure that spring doesn't fall out. And now I've got my 3 mounting screws. We've got 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. I'm gonna put those in, take my screwdriver and run them in a little. I'm not gonna tighten them all the way at first because I need to be able to make sure all this is lined up on the door. If you're doing a lot of these, you might wanna have a little template that you put against the edge of the door that runs over to the housing just to make sure it's the same distance from top to the bottom. We wanna be true to the edge of the door. Level actually doesn't matter here as much as true to the edge of the door does. So we're gonna line it up, then we're gonna take and just tighten those screws down the rest of the way. That's done. And we're gonna take and plug our cables in. Now, there's 2 different sizes here, so you can't do them the wrong way, really. You just plug them in the only one they match up to, and they're color-coded the same. When I plug those in, I hear the motor whir telling me it's powered up. Turn my handle, it does retract the latch. If I push that little tab, the deadbolt extends, but it's still retracted with the handle. So we know we're good there. Now we've got to put our handle on the outside of the door. Take my handle, and we've got our little set screw that I'm gonna thread in the handle. It's got a little bit of Loctite on there, so once you get it in, it's gonna stay in. I'm gonna take a 3mm hex wrench here. I'm gonna put the handle on the door, and I'm gonna remember to use my little spacer piece here. Put that handle on the door, take my 3mm wrench. I'm gonna tighten that down. If you're doing a lot of these doors, I recommend getting just a single 3mm wrench. That way you're not dealing with this bulk of all the other wrenches here. I'm just gonna tighten that down, and I'm gonna test this. I'm gonna take my construction key, read it. It retracts the latch and the deadbolt, and after about 5 seconds, it locks back. And I'm gonna test my privacy also. Once I put this inside housing on, I'm just gonna kind of set the housing in place with the thumb turn up and down before I go mounting everything. I know if I read my card now, it unlocks. But if I turn that thumb turn, and now I read the card, I get my yellow and red flashing lights telling me that privacy is enabled. I know everything's working the way it should. I can go ahead and put these back screws in. I'm gonna take a T10 Torx screwdriver here. I'm gonna run these in. I'm not gonna tighten them down all the way at first. I'm just gonna run them in a little bit. Once I get all 3 of them in there and lined up, then I'm gonna push the housing against the door and tighten them down the rest of the way so there's no gaps around it. We've got that on. Turn privacy off, can read my credential, it unlocks. We shut the door and the auto deadbolt throws. I turn on privacy and my key no longer works, but I can still turn the handle from the inside and get out. Our lock is now installed. The only thing we'd have to do now is pull the films off and put our privacy sticker on there, and we're done. Thank you for joining us today.